We need a bit of wisdom and experience on this Monday. Robert Craddock, hello to you, Crash.
G'day, Gerard. Oh, you've got me pumped with that magnificent introduction. Yeah, there's so much happening. And hello to you, and hello to one of our greatest listeners, Jimmy Wong, the chef at the MCG, who at the moment to be elbow deep in pasta with the radio on. So we'll keep him company for an hour. It's wonderful. I love it.
How did they all get out of that, Crash? Because there wasn't a lot of wriggle room. If you scratch the ball, we change it, and that's dissent.
Well, I'll just say this, only India could have got out of that. I mean, you cannot get more categorical than an umpire saying, you scratch it, we change the ball. I mean, fellow umpires are sort of secretly loving Sean Craig a little bit for this because he's the old-fashioned Victoria. He was a leg spinner and an all-rounder. And he's very direct. He was very direct with them. But my goodness me, it is an incredible retreat from saying no more discussion, let's play,
yes,
to no investigation at all. And it's an even bigger retreat from you're on report for dissent to nothing. Like, how did both charges get quashed? I mean, it's the first great mystery of the season, but to me, it's not a mystery. I just sense, I don't know, Gerard, India have this incredible capacity to get out of trouble on Australian soil. It's amazing, isn't it? When push comes to shove, they tend to win a few of these, don't they?
It seemed to me, Crash, that you got to pick your battles, and this wasn't the hill to die on. Not in the second 11 game.
Well, it's just, but I couldn't understand their decision because they said the ball had deteriorated. That is not an excuse for changing a ball overnight. It is not. Cricket balls are supposed to deteriorate. You know, they are supposed to. It's different if the seam is falling apart and things like that, but there was no suggestion of that. That's why you have a new ball late in the innings, you know. So I was astounded by this. I really was. Well, hang on. I'll take that back. I was shocked but not surprised because, as you say, you pick your battles. And technically, I quite like Sean Craig standing up to him early. But two things. He should have had another umpire with him because that would have increased the force of his message. And secondly, when you do your talks about ball tampering, it's a good thing to move away from the stump mic. I remember many years ago, Porky Parker in Perth was challenging the Sri Lankans about ball tampering, and he took Arjuna Ranatunga to square leg, to Kaiser Hyatt, deliberately so that nothing could be picked up. So Sean let his guard down there. But I've got to say, Gerard, I'm secretly enjoying a bit of fizzle in the summer, a bit of sort of sizzle and snap and crackle, bit of drama, because your point was very good at the start of the show. Like, it annoys me, Gerard, that cricket just comes in like a bit of a rising tide in October, November. There's no kapow moment. And you can say what you like about rugby league going to Las Vegas. Some people think it works, other people don't. But I tell you what it does do, it makes everyone aware of the start of the season. Kabang. Cricket just sort of seeps in gracefully, doesn't it? Like, you know, and I don't like that. I've always wished for more of a thunderclap.
Yes. I just missed the chance to the thunderclap today, I reckon. Did Nathan McSweeney win the audition?
Yeah, I reckon if you and I put the bookies board and we're standing up there, I've got him $1.25 now. I think if the team was being announced right now, he is in, Gerard.
Yep.
He is opening the batting for Australia in the first test. However, there's another 4-day Australian game. Now, much would have to go wrong for him and much would have to go right for the only other man, Harris, in the discussion. And I don't think Sam Constance will be there. I think they're more likely to keep him for when Usman Khawaja retires in about a year or so. And Cameron Bancroft just can't be there, can he? He just hasn't scored the runs. That cannot happen. But yet again, Marcus Harris got these scores between about 10 and 40, which that's his speciality, and that's why he's never really won them over, and it happened again. And I know that he has this habit of, even defensively, playing just outside of his front pad, and they always feel there's a nick there in them. So McSweeney, unconquered for 80-odd in the second innings, combined with a very patient 30 in the first, after a string of good scores, I think he will probably open the batting in the first test in Perth after being a number 3 for his career.
He aced the interview now, the dress rehearsal. You take the opportunity, don't you, on Thursday at the MCG and let him open so that you can have a look at it, so that he can get a feel of it?
Now, that is, you suggested that last week, and it's a good suggestion. Let him open the innings. It's very clear Marnus Labuschagne does not want to move from 3. It's where he's been comfortable and where he is. And there's just this lingering thing about Steve Smith too, that they moved a guy up the order and it didn't work. So they're a little bit reluctant to move Marnus up to open. Whereas McSweeney's got this tight, he's full of grit. He's a very tight sort of player, patient player. And there is one little thread to the game plan, Gerard, which is really important. And this is a reason for McSweeney's selection. And as I said, he's not over the line yet, but he's a firm favourite. It's that there's a feeling that India is in disarray, and the more time you keep them out in the field, the better. Like there's 5 tests in about 7 weeks, and they will know they're alive by the time that finishes. It's gruelling. So your little Aussie battler at the top of the order, your David Boone with Khawaja, who blunts them for, say, 35 overs or something, and he may only score 48 or something, but then in comes later Travis Head with his broadsword. So this season, ahead of others, that they don't mind an extra attritional player. Let's call him that.
Yep. And Constas, so these experiences are so valuable for him. If he's the chosen one for the next generation, he's not quite ready, and nor should he be at 19. This is where I am. Keep playing him. I would open with him in the next A game with McSweeney, but bat him at 3 or do whatever you like. Make sure he plays. Play as much Shield cricket as you can. Get the full season of cricket. He's just not quite ready for it.
No. It was a romantic thought to get him there, and I was open to it, and so were you. And that's another reason for McSweeney. Like, he would be the only player in the team under 30. And I've got to say this, he's no boy either. Like, he's 25.
Yeah.
There was a time when that was half. Doug Walters had been playing Test cricket for 6 years at 25. But he isn't a generation where there's no one else bar Cameron Green for a whole decade. Each side of him, no one. So that's another reason for blooding youth. You're right. Look, the 2 criticisms of Constas that I've heard, one was that he just goes a little bit hard outside off stump, and that was his dismissal in the first innings. And the other one, and this is all the chatter from under 19 level, is that sometimes he fails to properly cover the in-swinger, and he shouldered arms and was bowled by one in the second innings. So, yeah, he's good, he's got it, but you're right. McSweeney at the moment just seems more suited to it. And as I said, these are small things I'm going to tell you now, but they're sort of part of the package. You know, he's got a good head for sport. Like, he plays off a handicap of 2 at Kooyonga Golf Club in Adelaide. I mean, that's a thinking man sportsman. So he's and a captain who, I know this for a fact, Gerard, when the Brisbane Heat, when he captained them to a title last year, and he would go and meet up with their senior coaches before they addressed the team, and the coaches would have their game plans. And when they asked him what he was thinking, they said, you wouldn't believe it. It was almost as if he'd read our sheets. He's a good thinker on the game. So, you've got to develop these sort of players.
Yep. The judgment of Ian Smith. Remarkable events in India yesterday. India had never been swept in a 3-test series at home. New Zealand, as tourists, had never swept a team away from home. Robert Craddock's here for the Drain Man clears and relines without damage. Just so incredibly unlikely, Crash. It's actually hard to come up with a precedent.
Well, it's a good point, because here's the thing, rather grandiosely, and I totally get it, Ian Smith just said it's the best series win by New Zealand, but I'll throw this at you, Gerard. Is it the best series win in the history of the game? I'm not sure I can come up with a better series win by any team ever. Let's think about it. They've been unbeaten at home for 12 years. They have dominated the world. There was no one out missing from their team. And, of course, New Zealand had no Kane Williamson. He missed the series. Trent Bolt has now gone away from the Test team. So, they're vulnerable. They got beaten in Sri Lanka. Like, it was unthinkable. As they said in the commentary, pure fantasy. But if someone's got a suggestion, what series win in the history of the game is better than this one, let us know. Because, and I haven't thought deeply about it, but nothing absolutely just jumps into my mind because the conditions are so foreign to what New Zealanders are used to.
Yes, that's so right, Crash. And that they were breaking a record is India hadn't lost a series full stop. We recounted for forever and a day, let alone getting swept. So in the list, there's a great list that Michael Appleton published of the sweeps away from home, and it takes us back to 1896. The only series on that list, I think, is the West Indies and England in 1984 when they won 5-0, right at the height of West Indies cricket, that they would win 5-0 in England. There's the only other one I think that could hold a candle to it.
Yeah, it's good. It's outstanding, actually, and we're comparing the Mona Lisa to something similar to it, aren't we? But a lot of the West Indian players played county cricket in England.
Yeah.
They knew the conditions. It was where Viv Richards, Greenwich, all these boys, Marshall for Hampshire. So England was sort of like a second home to some of them, even though it felt so far away. India is just this foreign challenge, which is equally testing every time you go there, and there's never the great sense of familiarity, no matter many times you've been back to the Indian Premier League or that. So I would still rate this achievement above that one. If you were talking about unlikely achievements, clean sweeping India in a 3-test series, to me, actually rates ahead of beating England in 1984. It's tight, it's close, but this is just beyond the bizarre.
Yep, I'm firmly with you. Where does it leave India? This is so fascinating.
Oh, well, look, let's just have a talk about a couple of them. I can't believe where Virat Kohli's head is at the moment, and I was infatuated by his dismissal in the last test where he missed a full toss from Mitchell Santner. But then his anxiety escalated the other day to a greater level when in the last over of the day, he bunted a ball to mid-on and took off for a suicide single and was run out by Matt Henry, who just picked him off. In the last over of the day, you're taking suicide singles? I mean, his head is not on his shoulders at the moment, Virat Kohli. And he's had 4 out of his last 5 test years, he has averaged less than 28. I mean, wow, the great Kohli. And he is a player in decline. And something else has happened, Gerard, which is interesting. And I've just been monitoring it from afar, and I was speaking only this morning to Bharat Sundaresan about it. The full force of social media is hitting this Indian team. I mean, now the idols are under threat. There was mysterious sources being quoted from the Indian Cricket Board saying that the 4 long-serving players in this team, Jadeja, Ashwin, Kohli and Sharma, will never play in a home series again. This will be, the Australian tour will probably be a farewell to some of them, and that's true. Sharma himself, they can't settle in a test. Sharma himself got out with this rank pull shot after just previously playing another rank pull shot. And so, and Gerard, quite poignantly, who was the man of the match? This would be one for our listeners. If you tried to pick the man of the match, you would just forget it was plain old Will Young. A couple of half centuries at a strike rate of 52, just battling away. But he found the gear. See, he found the gear.
So, yes, is this now... I mean, they need to get out of India and get out of that environment. But I saw the same stuff you're referring to there. This now has the risk. So there's put the big if. If Australia got on top early, this has the feel of a series of sackings and abrupt retirements, and the whole thing comes apart away from home after an event like this. When a month ago, they looked so settled. And you could make the case they looked superior in what they were about to embark upon, and not anymore.
No. And don't forget their coach, Gautam Gambhir, has just come in, and he's suddenly under siege himself. Now, he's a different sort of character. As we said last week, he greatly admires Justin Langer and came to Australia and was sort of mentored by him for a little while. But he can be a sort of things can get to him pretty quickly and drag Gautam Gambhir down. Now, a total contrast to Ravi Shastri, their previous coach, who was we will fight them on the beaches and we come to Australia to attack. And, it was almost like a UFC sort of documentary, like he was so fired up. But guess what? It worked for him. It did get him fired up. He made fringe players like Washington Sundar believe in themselves with all this rhetoric. That's not Gambhir's style. He'll be... if I was Australia, I would be really targeting Sharma and Kohli, because if they fail in the top order, and I know there's, kids like, they've got Shubham Gill and players like that, but you take those two superstars down and they're vulnerable at the moment. They've lacked their ability to hang on to the rhythms of a test match. They really have. I reckon Australia wins.
Yeah, so there's batting problems everywhere there. Well, what about the quicks for India?
Yeah, see, this is the problem, because, they've got Akash Deep, who they feel's okay, and he looks all right. But behind, with Mohammad Shami out of the squad, injured, and I still can't believe they didn't wait until after the last test to announce their touring squad to Australia, to give him extra time, because the word is he probably would have made it. And he's the guy that Australia fear as much as Bumrah. They always talk about him, the players, like they say he's just a nightmare to face. Now, he's not coming. So somewhere in India tonight, Jasprit Bumrah is thinking, geez, 5 tests in Australia, I am going to be exhausted. And he doesn't have great backup, believe it or not. Like there's a couple of untried kids coming, and Akash Deep's okay, but they're going to have to play, I reckon, their 2 spinners in Jadeja, who should play, and Ashwin, and just hope that they can grind away. But tell you what, the first 3 tests, Perth, Adelaide, Brisbane, they're seamers decks. They're not spinners decks.
Text while we're having a chat, Crash. You could mount the same argument if India get on top of Australia early. Also, chaos could ensue for either team this summer. It's a rather delicious prospect.
Well, hey, great, good text, because there is that. Hey, aren't these 2 teams similar? Like, they've got a lot of older players just hanging on, haven't they? And I don't see any batsman in the Australian top order at the moment who's improving. None of them, not one. They're all over 30. They're still good, but I don't see anyone. So some Australians will fall as well. And Australia's returns in the Shield over the last month from their test players have been pretty darn modest, to be honest. Marnus is not playing that well. Khawaja's just doing what Khawaja does, but he's not starring. So it's a good point. And our final note of caution, Gerard, is that India did win a series in Australia after being bowled out for 36 at the Adelaide Oval. And all of us famously declared that night, whitewash is coming. And, we all sort of said, they won't, they'll just get swept away. And they won the series, Yep. So you never know with them. And maybe they're so far down the well that they'll have this little, a couple of days will straighten them up in Australia. But I see problems.